Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a little different than usual. It's not as upbeat because my teacher Coosje Wijzenbeek just passed away. She was only 72 and she will be missed by so many people, including me. I studied with her for 13 years and I thought somehow that this video would just be a really nice way to remember her, so I hope you agree, and I hope that if you did know her in any way that you will also share your memories either in the comments or with me personally. I'd really love to hear any of them. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this video. Bye! I remember you would have like your little notebook, right, where she kept track of your pieces you had to play. And if some piece had an exclamation mark, then it was bad. If it was underlined, it was bad. Basically, everything was always bad. So I should tell you guys a little bit about how my journey with Coosje started. Okay, so picture me, little 5-year-old AMARINS. I had just finished 2.5 years of Suzuki method and my teacher had gotten ill. So my parents decided it was time for me to change teachers. And so my mom called up Joyce Tan, who she'd heard of, who was a violin pedagogue at the time, and she said, you know, I have this 5-year-old kid, she's had 2.5 years of violin lessons, would you be able to take her? And Joyce said, no, that's actually still a bit too young for me, but why don't you try Coosje? So my mom, being her nice American clarinetist self, had never heard of Coosje. So she called her up and she said, you know, I have this daughter, explain the situation. And Coosje said, no, I'm full. Then my mom said, well, you know, would you be willing to hear her and advise us what a good teacher would be? Very smart move, my mom's. Then we did go and I played my little piece for Coosje, and apparently I arrived with like my orange peels in my case because someone had told my parents that that was good for moisture. Anyway, I don't remember that part of the story. And in my little dress and everything, and so I played my little piece and then Coosje said, okay, Thursday at 3 o'clock, something like that. And that was it. So I was in. From then on I studied, so from age 5 to age 18 when I went to the Conservatory of Amsterdam to go study with Vera Betts. I studied with Coosje. So when I was, I think about 8 or 9, I'd been having lessons for 3-4 years, and I think Coosje thought I was ready to join the Fancy Fiddlers. Mind you, she'd had to teach me how to read music because before that I had never learned. I was always just playing by ear. So I was finally kind of somewhat ready, and I still remember the lesson when she said at the end, oh, AMARINS, you know, I think you're ready to join the Fancy Fiddlers, and I was so happy. And so I joined the kleintjes, or the small ones, and yeah, every single concert we had, she would introduce all of us by name and where we lived and how old we were. Imagine, like, I think there were usually 20 students in the Fancy Fiddlers, and she would introduce every single one of us at every single concert, which you can see here in some of our old footage.
Uit Lelystad, AMARINS, 8 jaar, die komt uit Bunk. Barbara, 9 jaar, en die komt uit Hengelo. Gerard, 8 jaar, en die komt uit Vught. En Hanna, 10 jaar, ook uit Lelystad. En Marcia, 9 jaar en die komt ook uit Zeist. En ze gaan 4 studies doen.
I looked up to Coosje so much. You know, she was teaching since she was 12. And her teaching mind was so incredibly good, and she always talked about knowing when to tell a student something and when not to tell a student something. And that's something that really stayed by me, you know, whether it's playing chamber music with someone or giving someone a lesson or any critique of any kind, wherever it is in life. I think thinking about what they need rather than what you think is such a big thing. And she was just incredibly good at that. You know, she knew when you needed to be given a smack and be shouted at, and she knew which people needed that.
Goed zo. Even een anekdote vertellen bij dit stuk. Had ik een leerling die studeerde dit. Het stuk heet Prière. En dat had ze aan mijn moeder gevraagd hoe dat heet. En op een gegeven moment was ze aan het studeren. En toen moest ze nog één stukje, zei zo nu nog even het gebed van dankbaar.
Age 13 or 14, she always said, het kwartje viel, and is a Dutch expression, obviously, which means the quarter fell. There was something that clicked in my brain. And she always said that she had let me play some chamber music for a festival. It was with my mom, clarinetist, and we were playing Mozart's Clarinet Quintet. And I was playing second violin, and I had practiced my part like mad, because it was all with older musicians and I didn't want to be shown up. Coosje was really impressed, and she said, look, AMARINS, this is how you should practice all your music. I guess something inside me must have clicked and gone, so I'm supposed to, you know, prepare everything as if it were, as if my life depended on it. At some point, I think I must have been 11 or something like that, we started going to thirtten, Switzerland, each summer, and we would learn all our music there. So we'd be there for 10 days and we'd all practice all our new pieces, learn them by memory. You know, it would be kind of, we'd arrive at like 6 or 7 at night after a whole day of being in the bus, and Coosje would say, okay, now we'd play through some of our repertoire, you know, really like after 12 hours of sitting on a bus. And then the next morning we'd all get up at 6 o'clock, have some dry bread because the kitchen wasn't open yet, and then we'd go and play through our morning piece with everyone before breakfast. It was quite a rigorous time. So she would always call me an achterbankkind, and she would always say that there were children who would just sit on the back seat of their parents' car and just be driven everywhere. And it kind of meant that you couldn't take any initiative yourself. So she wanted to teach us to take our own initiative, to make our own decisions from a really young age. And that's something that, you know, I carry with me today, definitely. But yeah, when I was, you know, 8, I was an achterbankkind, so a backseat child. And at some point, she got so angry at me because I had told my mom that I thought it would be fun to take part in this kids competition, the Jordensfielddagen. And so my mom, being my mom, she had taken initiative and she told Coosje, you know, oh, AMARINS, you know, she said she'd quite like to take part in the competition. Coosje got so angry, and of course never with the parents there, no, it was always in the lesson. So she yelled at me and she's like, you know, if you want something, you should ask for it, and I'm not going to give you something if I hear it from your mother. Achterbankkind, you know, just like cursing away. Then for the next week, I got together all my courage and I asked her, Coosje, I'd quite like to take part in the Jordensfielddagen. Okay, well, here's your form that you have to fill out, and just get it back to me and I'm gonna help you. And she was so supportive, and without that, you know, I wouldn't do half the things that I'm doing today. I was also going to tell you guys this this anecdote. There was one where I must have been really young. We were playing with the small ones, the kleintjes, and we went and played in the Barbizon Hotel in Amsterdam. It must have been for I think it was for Philips or something like this, like high up, like fancy schmancy do. And they gave us all boxes of hair dryers and hair curlers afterwards. Really fancy ones. I still have my hair dryer. But it was such a strange present for, you know, for these little 8-9-year-old kids, all these like Princess brand hair dryers. And another anecdote, I don't know why I remember this, but for some reason my parents couldn't take me to a concert, and so I was going with Coosje, and it was somewhere really, really far north, in the north of Holland. And we were driving through some sort of field or whatever, this like tiny road through a field, and she had her thirtten, as we call it in Holland, but the GPS. And she was like, well, this seems to be right. Should I turn back? Should I go? And I was like, I don't know. How am I supposed to know how we're getting there? Anyway, we made it in the end, but I just remember like being so baffled that she would ask me what I thought about either going straight or going back.
Hartelijk welkom allemaal. Ik vind het ontzettend leuk dat we hier vanmiddag een concert mogen geven. We zijn ontzettend hartelijk ontvangen met lekker eten en drinken. Dus we kunnen er flink tegenaan. Ik wou even in het kort vertellen hoe de Fancy Fiddlers zijn ontstaan. Het is een verzamelnaam van mijn leerlingen. En die komen eigenlijk uit het hele land elke week naar Hilversum voor hun vioolles. En op een gegeven moment zouden we een uitwisselingsconcert doen met Hongaarse kinderen. En toen was eigenlijk de animo zo groot om mee te mogen, dat eigenlijk de enige alternatief was, wat ik kon bedenken, was dat ze gingen samenspelen.
I can definitely say that Coosje meant so much to me. So, you know, I grew up with her. I went from 5-year-old little girl to an 18-year-old adult, right? And of course, during that time, there were a lot of really hard things that happened to me, especially later on. So in my last year of high school, my dad passed away, and that was obviously a really, really hard time for me at home. And of course everything was changing, you know, stability felt like the rug was pulled out from under me, and Coosje was there, you know, she was that rock that supported our family through all of that. And she called my mom every week for a year after my dad died. It's just really hard to explain how much that meant to us, I think.